There is a moment today when something that felt urgent for weeks suddenly goes quiet. Not resolved, just quiet. And if you are a Sagittarius, that silence might feel unsettling at first, because you have spent the last several days moving fast, saying yes, chasing momentum. But the sky is asking you to stop mid-stride and check something most people this week will completely miss. A door is opening towards something bigger than your usual routine, and yet the very same energy is warning you not to walk through it blind. What looks like the biggest opportunity of your month may also be the easiest one to misjudge. We will get to exactly why in a moment, but first you need to understand what is actually happening above your head today. The bigger picture. Today's headline event is a new moon in Leo, and it is landing directly in your ninth house, the part of your chart connected to travel, higher learning, publishing, and the belief systems that shape how you see your future. From the Western tropical perspective, this is significant because your ninth house is your natural territory. You are the sign ruled by expansion, and this lunation is essentially handing you a blank page in your favorite part of the chart. But there is a twist that makes this new moon different from a routine reset. This lunation is also a total solar eclipse. Eclipses do not just start new chapters. They tend to accelerate things that were already quietly building underneath the surface. So if you have been circling an idea about relocating, studying something new, publishing a project, or reconsidering what you actually believe about your own future, this is the moment that energy tends to become real rather than theoretical. At the same time, something slower and more structural is happening. Chiron, the wounded healer of the chart, continues its long dance between Saturn, the planet of realistic limits, and Uranus, the planet that challenges those limits entirely. In evolutionary astrology, Chiron is not concerned with good or bad decisions. It simply asks you to stop guessing and find out what is actually true about your resources, your workload, and your support system. That means this eclipse is not only inviting expansion, it is also quietly testing whether your foundation can hold the size of what you are imagining. Here is where the Vedic or sidereal lens adds something the Western chart does not emphasize as clearly. In that tradition, today's moon placement in Cancer brings a softer, more internal quality to the day, one that favors rest over hustle and reflection over pushing forward immediately. So while the Western eclipse energy says move, the Vedic moon says pause first and feel where you actually stand. Both are describing the same day from different angles, and together they suggest something specific. The expansion is real, but it works better when it starts from stillness rather than urgency. That contrast, bold outer opportunity paired with quiet inner exhaustion, is going to show up again in almost every area of your day. Keep it in mind, because it explains more than it seems to at first. Love. If you are in a relationship, today may bring an unexpected suggestion from your partner, something you had not considered, maybe involving travel, distance, or a shift in plans neither of you had fully discussed. This lines up with a Mercury-Uranus aspect active right now, and in the older Hellenistic tradition, this kind of aspect between the mind and the planet of sudden change often corresponds with communication that arrives out of nowhere and reshapes the conversation entirely. The tricky part is not the idea itself. It is the temptation to say yes before you have actually checked whether the plan works. You may have noticed this pattern before, where enthusiasm feels like commitment, and only afterward do the practical details surface. Tay asks you to compare schedules, costs, and expectations honestly, not because romance needs less spontaneity, but because this particular spontaneity deserves a real foundation. There is also a quieter emotional thread running underneath all this. Opening up about what you genuinely want, rather than what sounds adventurous in the moment, may feel uncomfortable at first. Psychologically, this discomfort tends to ease with practice, and the relationships that strengthen today are usually the ones where both people said the honest thing rather than the easy thing. If you are single, You may find yourself catching the attention of someone with real intensity, someone who reads as private, magnetic, perhaps even a little mysterious in their approach. That kind of connection can be compelling precisely because it is not obvious. The open question here is whether attraction built on mystery can survive an honest conversation. You may get a chance to test that today, and how it unfolds could tell you more about what you actually want than any amount of daydreaming would. Career. The same eclipse energy that is stirring your love life is doing something even more direct in your work life. This is genuinely one of the more favorable stretches for beginning something entrepreneurial, applying for a role that involves travel, or opening a conversation about relocating for work. The ninth house does not just govern travel, it governs the belief that your life can be bigger than its current shape. And today's eclipse is asking whether you are ready to act on that belief rather than just hold it. But remember what Chiron is asking underneath all this excitement. Before chasing the leap, it wants you to identify where your actual allies, resources, and support already exist. This is not about hesitation. It is about accuracy. A maverick voice, possibly a mentor, possibly your own intuition sharpened by experience, seems to be nudging you to define what is realistic before defining what is exciting. You might recognize this if you have been offered something that sounds perfect on paper, but has not been tested against your actual capacity yet. That is the situation this transit tends to create. The opportunity is likely real. What needs verification is whether the infrastructure around you can support it. Money. This is where the eclipse's boldness needs the most grounding. With expansion energy this strong, there is a real temptation to take a financial risk, whether that is investing in the entrepreneurial idea, funding sudden travel plans, or stretching your budget towards something that feels destined. The astrology does lean toward reward, favoring boldness right now. But that does not mean every risk is the right one. Be careful with money today, particularly around impulsive choices that arrive wrapped in excitement rather than analysis. The healthiest version of this energy looks like calculated risk, the kind where you have already done the homework Chiron was asking for in the career conversation. Financial confidence and financial recklessness can look identical in the moment. The difference only becomes clear afterward, so it is worth slowing down just long enough to tell them apart today. Health. Here is the detail most people miss entirely today, and it might be the most important thing in this whole reading. All that outward, eclipse-fueled excitement is sitting on top of a body that may still be running on the fumes of a genuinely tiring stretch. The Vedic moon in Cancer points toward a day that wants rest, quiet, and emotional check-ins rather than another sprint. If you have been pushing for days without a real pause, today's chart is quietly insisting you take one. There is also a physical detail worth noting. Extra care around your throat seems relevant right now, especially since so much of today's energy involves speaking up, whether that is the honest conversation in love or the bold pitch in your career. Communication is the theme of the day, and your voice, literally and figuratively, is doing a lot of work. Treat it gently. This is the real shift. What looks like fatigue is not a sign you are falling behind the eclipse's momentum. It is the exact preparation the Vedic tradition said this day needed. Rest today is not the opposite of expansion. It is what makes the expansion sustainable. That reframe matters because it changes an entire day that could otherwise feel like a contradiction into one unified message. Slow down first, then reach further. Home and family. Family responsibilities may ask for more of your attention today than you initially planned, possibly involving a decision where your voice carries real weight. This is not the kind of situation you can delegate away or postpone indefinitely. Something domestic seems to need your presence specifically, and given how much of today's chart already centers on honest communication, this is likely another place where saying the true thing matters more than saying the comfortable thing. If tension surfaces, try connecting it back to the day's larger theme rather than treating it as separate. The same pattern showing up in love and career. Big excitement paired with a need for grounded honesty tends to echo here too. Family conversations handled with patience today may end up strengthening trust rather than straining it. Travel and spirit. Travel is arguably the loudest theme running through this entire day, and it is worth returning to why. The eclipse sits in your house of long journeys and expanded belief, which means even a small step, researching a destination, outlining a course, reopening a door you had closed, carries more symbolic weight than usual. Think of it like standing at a crossroads that has been there for months, except today someone finally turned the streetlight on. You can actually see the paths now. Spiritually, this is a strong day for reconnecting with what you believe about your own future, not in an abstract sense, but in the practical decisions that follow from those beliefs. If you have felt disconnected from a bigger sense of purpose lately, that disconnection may start easing as you choose one concrete step toward the life you actually want, rather than continuing to hold it only as an idea. Lucky signs. If you are looking for the day's smaller signals, pink carries a gentle, supportive energy for you right now, and your most favorable window seems to fall between 1:30 and 2:30 in the afternoon. Someone with intense magnetic energy, the kind associated with Scorpio, may play a meaningful role in today's interactions, whether romantically or simply as an interesting presence worth noticing. Today's guidance. So here is where all of this actually lands. Today is not just about chasing the biggest, boldest opportunity your chart has offered in a while, even though that opportunity does appear real. It is about pairing that boldness with the quieter instruction running underneath it, the one asking you to rest first, verify your resources, speak honestly, and choose one concrete step instead of 10 scattered ones. That is really the whole story of today. Big excitement, real potential, and a chart that keeps whispering the same reminder in every area of your life. Enthusiasm is not a reservation. Confirm the details, protect your energy, and say the honest thing before the exciting thing. Do that, and the door this eclipse is opening may end up leading exactly where you have been hoping to go.